I be like Rock the Great One. I lay a smack down when I'm on the station. I never back down, I'm an inspiration. Illuminate a little bit.
Hey, what's up guys, TechTitan here, and I'm back again with a brand new video. So if you're new around here, don't be a stranger, make sure you subscribe, make sure you also leave a thumbs up. A lot more great content is coming really soon. With that being said, I originally wanted to do a kind of a 48 hours review of the Galaxy A35, but I thought to myself, let me spend a little bit more time with it to see how it stacks up against competition. So I did spend a whole week with this phone. I'm more familiar and I feel like I can give you guys a proper kind of 1 week review. So I want you to guys think of this phone as kind of the middle child. It's a good phone, it just doesn't make sense at times. So let me break it down, and we're gonna go ahead and begin with the design itself. So the two main materials that this phone is made out of is glass and plastic. So the glass being the back and the display, of course, and the back glass is very familiar, very similar in pretty much any Galaxy phone at this point other than the A15 or the A25. Well, the back does catch fingerprints like crazy, especially with this color. If you want a back that doesn't catch fingerprints, I would say get a lighter color that doesn't show as much, and dust is also something that you'll notice on this phone. The back has your triple camera setup, which we will definitely talk about later on. So on the bottom of the phone, you don't really get a headphone jack, which is fine, but you do get a fast USB-C port that does support up to 25 watt of wire charging, as well as your bottom facing speaker. And this phone looks extremely familiar in the material of choice to the Galaxy A15 and the Galaxy A25. I would say the biggest difference here would be in the power and the volume up and down. So there are much better buttons than the A15 and the A25. They don't sit flush, especially that power button. They're clicky, tactile, and still has that same curvature that Samsung has been using, because this time around we do get an in-display fingerprint sensor instead of the side fingerprint sensor, which brings me to my next point, which is the display of the Galaxy A35. Which in this particular model, Samsung does bless us with a 6.6 inch display, 2340 by 1080p, that is Super AMOLED, and it's using the Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, which is similar to the Galaxy A55 that I did videos on. I'll leave them linked in the description below if you're interested in checking them out. However though, as far as this display goes, it does support 1000 nits of peak brightness. It does also has support of 120 Hz refresh rate. What I want to say about this display is this: the bezels are a little bit larger than, you know, the more newer, more advanced phones, which doesn't really bother me that much. And you also get this hole punch front facing camera that we're all familiar with. But I mean, this display is really good overall. I don't really have a lot to complain about it. You get 120 Hz refresh rate. I wish that what Samsung would have done is what other manufacturers do, like Motorola and such, is that they give us the ability to, instead of using adaptive where it would decide whether you need 120 Hz or not, it would give us the ability to switch it to 120 Hz all the time. I think that would be a fantastic choice. It would destroy the battery, but you might as well enjoy the phone. So when it comes to your kind of watching videos, going through social media and things like that, this phone works really well. So watching videos on this phone is just a good experience overall. I mean, don't get me wrong, the display is good, but later on in the video I will describe, or I will discuss, why this phone is just not viable to get just yet. However though, from the time that I've spent with it, this display didn't show me any problems at all. So very good AMOLED display that we come to expect from Samsung. However, it's a very similar display to the Galaxy A54. So yeah, overall the display definitely gets a thumbs up in my book. Okay, so I want to have a conversation real quick about the performance of this phone. So beginning with the chipset, Samsung decided to use the Exynos 1380. We've seen it before. It's based on a 5nm architecture. It is using an octa-core processor, so 4 of the cores are clocked at 2.4 GHz. The other 4 are clocked at 2 GHz. You also get the Mali G68 MP5 for your GPU, 128GB of standard storage, as well as 6GB of RAM, 5000 mAh battery. So everything as far as the specs seems to be okay, or I would say a little bit higher than, I would say in the midst of mid-range. So 983 is your single core score in benchmark, and 2873 is your multi-core, which I would say is average. However, the problem that I have with this phone when it comes to the performance is the price point, but I'll save that for kind of the end of the video. But basically what I have to say as far as the performance itself, when it comes to your basic tasks, your basic needs, like opening up your phone app, opening up your messaging app, browsing the web, things of that nature, it does a pretty good job. But honestly, like at this point, what phone doesn't? Whether you buy a $400 phone or even a $150 phone, a lot of them do a fairly good job in your main tasks, or your basic tasks, I should say. Browsing the web, going through social media, doing all that fun stuff works fine. I haven't really experienced a lot of lag. It does have its bugs here and there, but nothing too outrageous, nothing that will make me get upset with this phone's performance. As far as gaming goes, what I wanted to notice is whether this phone will overheat at a certain period of time, or whether the battery life is good enough to handle these types of games. What I've noticed is that there's not been a major overheating issue with this phone, so thumbs up for that. And gaming on here works fine for the most part. Light titles will work really well. Heavy demanding titles would give you a little bit of a harder time, but still work fairly well. So overall performance 1 week later has been good. It just did not exceed expectations for a phone at this price point in today's day and age. Okay, so the next in the conversation has to be the camera system. So you get a triple camera setup, which is a very familiar triple camera setup. A 50 megapixel main sensor at f1.8, an 8 megapixel at f2.2, and a 5 megapixel at f2.4. So the 8 megapixel is an ultra wide sensor. And I would say that as far as the camera experience, I feel like it's kind of a recycled camera. So they pretty much took the Galaxy A54's camera and stuck it here and said, here you go. It's part of the A35's camera system. Now, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. All I'm saying is that they didn't really introduce any new features or anything like that. You do get steady shot, and you do get optical image stabilization when it comes to shooting photos, and you get the ability to shoot 4K video at up to 30 frames per second. No 4K 60, but that's fine. Overall though, as far as a photo experience, like I said, it's a very familiar experience. The pictures on here look fairly good. I do have to do a full camera review, so I'm currently working on that to give you guys a much better understanding of where this camera stands. But for the time being, just think of it as a Galaxy A54's camera. So with that being said, here is my final conclusion on this device. So this phone is overall a good device. However, it has two major problems. One, the Galaxy A55 is its biggest competitor. However, if you live in the United States, that might not matter much because we did get robbed and we're not going to get the A55, which sucks. However, the other major problem is the price point. So for $399, I would rather get the A25 for $299, which is $100 cheaper and does pretty much everything that this phone does. So this is where kind of doesn't make sense. However, though, I mean, like I said, I'm not saying it's a bad phone. It's just a tough buy. I don't know who or how many people would actually be interested in buying this phone. So I feel like it's just going to go under the radar. Not a lot of people are going to be interested in it. It still is a good phone. Just the price point is way too high and it's competing with its own siblings. And so with that being said, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. So leave them in the comments below. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. And I will definitely catch you guys in the next one. Thank you all for watching.